Hello, welcome. My name is Ashley Deadwyler-Jones, and I'm here with my amazing co-host, Miss Andrea Evans, and we are here spotlighting and highlighting HBCU excellence. Today, we have the opportunity to chat with Miss Ebony Thomas, who is also one of our Spelman sisters. And Ebony, talk to us today about who you are, what you're doing, and what led your steps to Spelman.
Absolutely. I am Ebony Thomas. I currently am in management consulting for Booz Allen Hamilton, which is a top 5 consulting firm, global consulting firm. I specialize in strategic planning, change management, business process redesign, and org design. For me, Spelman was something that I wanted ever since I was 10 years old. If I'm being wholly transparent, it had everything to do with the different worlds, which was films on Spelman's campus, but it was an opportunity to really understand what HBCUs were. And so from there, I set my sights on Spelman. My mother made me apply to 5 schools, but I knew there was only one for me. So good thing I got in, because I'd have been a very sad little girl.
Well, I'm glad you got in, but I'm glad you accepted, and you are our Spelman sister. So sounds like you had quite a few schools to choose from out of those 5. Was it tough for you in the sense that your parents or your friends were pushing you in another direction, or was it just understood that when you got accepted, that was it, you were going to Spelman?
When I got accepted, that was it. I was going to Spelman. And my parents, I'm so thankful. I tell them all the time, thank you so much for the opportunity. It continues to be a great decision. I like to say it was the best choice. My first choice was my best choice. I see how the network has been impactful even to this day. So definitely there was no push to go anywhere else. I think as an only child, my parents were just happy that I was happy about my choice. And so they supported it, and I'm glad I was able to make it there.
Talk to us about your experience while you were at Spelman. I mean, it's one thing to see a different world and you see how cool Dwayne Wayne and Lisa Bonet, how they were on campus. It's a different experience. It's not real TV life. But for you, what was it like for you at Spelman while you were there? What did you major in? Did you know what you wanted to do when you started? And talk to us about that journey for you.
Absolutely. I got there as a freshman. I was just excited to be in Atlanta. In terms of major, I had no idea. I think I started off undecided my first semester. Second semester, I switched to psychology. And then I started talking to some of my mentors really about, what would be successful upon graduation. And that's kind of where I shifted into economics. I was an economics major with a minor in organizational management. And I had my sights set on business from there on out. And so I started my career in finance. And so Spelman was very instrumental in me landing my first job, their career services group. I recall my junior and senior year pretty much being in career services all the time and really going to the events that they had when people would be on campus interviewing. And I landed a role with Goldman Sachs. And so worked in New York right upon graduation in their equities division.
So tell us more about that experience, because on the outside looking in, I have heard horror stories about economics and finance and working at these big Fortune 100 corporations, and you did it, and you're doing it, and you are truly a boss, like literally a boss in your profession. And so how did Spelman prepare you for that experience to be the boss that you are today?
Absolutely. When people talk about economics, anyone who was an economics major remembers some of our great professors. There was Dr. Stone, Dr. Hornsby, Dr. Elu. Dr. Stone was super cool, and the rest were too, but they were tough. They were definitely tough on you and wanted to make sure that you understood all of the principles that they were teaching so that on the other ends of graduation, you could take that out into the world. And I think it was not only just the concepts, but it was how do you be a leader in the field, right? How do you stand out in the field? So I appreciated that aspect of what I learned from them. The other thing that I'll say is that Spelman's a liberal arts school. We were limited in terms of the number of classes that we had, but we weren't limited in terms of exposure. And so as an econ major, I was able to couple a lot of my classes or my curriculum with some of the classes that were offered across the street at Morehouse. And so I took business law over there, accounting over there. So that was able to allow me to tailor my curriculum to something that would work for me when I graduated, if that makes sense. But Spelman absolutely prepared me for that. They put me in real life situations. They put me around some of the most talented women in the world. I'm just amazed when I look at what my sisters are doing now. So I'm not in this alone. Everyone that I graduated with, those who came before me, those that are coming after me, I'm just always impressed by what Spelman and women are doing in the world today.
Goldman Sachs Equities Division. Wow. So having Spelman on your resume helped. But,
absolutely.
Right. But were there other things and other steps that you took along the way, internships, you know, other connections, like that just doesn't happen for everybody every day. So what did you do to get that spot that you got at Goldman?
Absolutely. There are a couple of things that I remember about my process in getting to Goldman Sachs. One, networking is extremely important, as is follow-up. It's one thing to meet someone and get their card. It's a totally different thing to get their card and follow up every couple of weeks. And so after meeting people on campus at Goldman Sachs, and I went very early before I would actually be looking for a role, a full-time role. But I kept in touch with those people over the year. I would ask questions about the market. I would ask what they were reading. I would continue to show interest over that year. So by the time I got to senior year, I already had 3 or 4 people that I had built a relationship with over that year. And so when it came down to them choosing their list for interviews, I was on it. And I will forever be thankful for that, but I was on it. And so, you know, getting to Goldman Sachs, when I got there, it was just also great that I had so many Spelman and Spelman sisters and Morehouse brothers who were already there, who could show me the ropes, tell me about the challenges that I might face, and really hold my hand to make sure that I didn't get into any situations that I couldn't get out of.
I love that because, as you know, Ebony, community is key. And it sounds like you valued your community at Spelman and beyond, you know, in your personal life as well as your professional life. And if you had to go back to Spelman and you think about that experience that you had and what you felt as you walked through the beautiful gates of the campus, what is your most memorable college experience if you had to choose just one? I know it's tough, but just maybe the one that stands out and has made the most impression on you.
Honestly, this might be corny, but mornings in the cafeteria where you get to speak and meet and really bond with your sisters. I would never take that for granted, where you have so many Black women in one area. It's one thing for us to be in convocation where we've got an agenda. It's another thing for us to be in class where we've got an agenda. But just hopping around and just talking to people and getting to know folks, that's where I felt like I built my biggest network outside of my core group of friends. It was really just having those conversations in informal areas, you know, upper Manly, lower Manly, just having conversations with people and building friendships that didn't necessarily form in the dorm or anything like that, or in the classroom.
Awesome. I do remember those times very well. And we had to come to the cafeteria, you know, very appropriate. I do know that, you know, we could not come in our house shoes and
Oh no.
we had to level up all the time. So Ebony, you said that you transitioned from Goldman Sachs to Booz Allen Hamilton, both excellent firms, top tier firms.
Thank you.
Yeah, in that transition, was your HBCU network, you know, important in terms of kind of mentoring you through that process? Talk to me about that transition, who helped you get there, and what it's like now being at Booz Allen Hamilton. Absolutely.
I think my HBCU network has always played a key part in everything. And so I was at Goldman Sachs. I left and went to Fannie Mae working in their capital markets division. I had always known that I wanted to go back into, or to get my graduate degree in business. So I went and got my MBA with a concentration in finance and investment management, and totally wanted to go out and do private wealth management after graduation. The financial markets collapsed, and now I'm a consultant. So I had to think about what industry would be just as lucrative, just as challenging, and allow me to leverage my analytical and client relationship management skills. Reaching out to my network, I was able to get in touch with someone who put me in touch with a recruiter at Booz Allen. And that's kind of what facilitated my transition into the consulting industry. I've been there now for 10 years. I think that the HBCU connection, again, has allowed me, because I saw how important it was to have that network, I've grown to now become the chair of our African American Forum at Booz Allen. And it just shows that that community and that connection to people that look like you is important. It's not the only important connection. You need mentors and sponsors of all different backgrounds and colors, but it's definitely a grounding place. And I feel like I've been able to leverage my HBCU background and experience to kind of bring that into the corporate world, to make sure that people also have that type of community when they're in such a big place and may not see or understand how we fit in.
Oh, good for you, Ebony, and way to pay it forward and make a difference. That's so impressive, and I'm so proud of you as your older Spelman sister.
Thank you.
And so you pay it forward at your job. And so we have a lot of young students watching this interview today who are trying to choose a career. And the studies show that STEM is everything, right? You know, if you have a STEM degree, that's the way to go. But you got to know how to deal with money too, and economics and investments. And so when you think of finance and those students that want to be in your shoes, because it sounds like you had to pivot along the way, can you give those students some career advice and maybe some core classes they should take, or some things that as you get ready to interview them, things that you would think would stand out to make an impression on you so that you'll hire them?
Absolutely. One, STEM is not going away. And so anything that you can do to align yourself to a STEM capability, the better. Even if it's not the only thing that you're doing, most firms are going to appreciate the fact that you understand those concepts. In terms of what recruiters are looking for or classes that you can take, there are things like money and banking that you can take at Spelman, any of the economics platform. But think about some of the real life classes too, like your finances, your real estate, commercial real estate. Those are all things that will help you going forward. When you think about how to appeal to firms or hiring managers, really make sure that you're conveying your story and what you want to do. So regardless of what you're aspiring to be, ensure that that comes through on your resume and that you're telling a complete story. One thing that is difficult, and I am a hiring manager, is when I've seen people jump around and not necessarily tie what it is that they do to what they're applying for. So if you're interested in A, make sure you're doing things that can be reflected in your resume that lead you to A, if that makes sense.
So Ebony, you are this high-level executive helping people change management, Department of Defense. I mean, just doing a lot of big things. And I'm, again, very proud of you and excited for all that you're doing. But you have fun and you kick back and you have, you know, you're a very good chef, if I can show pictures. Talk to me about that. You know, we're all in this COVID-19 space. Some of us are, you know, trying to find ourselves and do new things. How did you find this love for cooking, and how did you discover that, and how did you get it to the level that you are now? Because if I'm correct, I don't think you went to culinary school. You got your MBA, but
not. So it's kind of funny. I grew up cooking with my mom, my grandma, all of that. So like I've always loved to cook. We always cook. My mom and I are in the kitchen all the time. And then my grandfather was actually a professional photographer. So I think that's why my pictures might look, you know, a little okay, you know. But no, I grew up cooking with the women in my life, my mom, my grandma, and it's always been very important to us. And so I've always loved to cook. I love food in general, so I'm a huge foodie. So while I wasn't cooking before, if you scroll through my Instagram, there was restaurant reviews, because I was always out, you know, eating at various restaurants, new restaurants when they would open. I would be at every like grand opening, soft opening, and then COVID-19 hit, and I couldn't go to my favorite restaurants, but I still wanted good food. And so that's kind of how I had to shift to, if I can't get it in a restaurant, I'm gonna have to make it at the house. And so it's been great. It's been great. I love cooking. It makes me happy. I'm gonna cook as soon as this is over. It does. It brings me a lot of joy. And you know, since I miss going out to restaurants and hanging with friends, it's good that I'm able to do it this way and be able to share on Instagram so that people can see it that way.
Well, let me interject. I just want to know, what are you cooking tonight? I mean, I'll be looking on it. What are you planning to cook tonight? Just curious.
So it's probably not the fanciest of meals, but I just have a craving for fried shrimp and catfish. So fried shrimp and catfish.
Hey, that sounds good. And if you hear something right now, that's my stomach growling. After Ashley showed the picture and now you're talking about what you're making tonight. But let me ask you, if President Obama called you tomorrow and said, Ebony, I'm coming to dinner, what is that dish that you're going to make for President Obama?
Oh, wow. That's a tough one. I feel like he's fancy, but he would also appreciate just like regular home cooking. So I might just do shrimp and grits, something like that. I would kick it up a notch or three. Use like a fancy cheese, like a taleggio or something like that. Argentine red shrimp as opposed to just a regular shrimp. Cornmeal grits or something like that. But yeah, I would make it something that would be appealing and kind of comfort food as opposed to going over the top fancy.
Well, now, Ebony, everyone wants to follow you on Instagram. What you're doing, how you're doing it. If you can, please let us know where we can find you personally for fun on Instagram and professionally to follow you. Give us a little bit more of your information. Share it with the family.
Absolutely. So my name is a little interesting. My little Spelman sister actually gave me this name when I was a junior at Spelman. She calls me Ebostopoulos. So it's Ebostopolous. So shout out to Sharika Newton, class of 2002, who gave me that name. And then I'm on LinkedIn, Ebony D. Thomas. You can find me there. So yeah, that's me.
So Ebony, why did she give you that name and what does it mean exactly?
I have no idea. She's from Brooklyn and she's a firecracker and just a ball of fun. And one day she came outside and was like, Ebostopoulos, and I've let it stick with me ever since. So.
Well, I love that name. I love that name. And Ebony, we thank you so much for spending time with us, time away from the kitchen, doing all your fun things and outside, taking off your executive collar to spend some time with us today and sharing all this knowledge with the folks who are viewing. So thanks again. We appreciate you. And if there's anything, any words of wisdom that you want to share with us before we sign off, please do. We'd love to hear from you.
Yeah, for all of the students, I can't express enough how important networking is and maintaining relationships. Don't feel like you'll ever be bugging a Spelman sister. We are here for you. We want to support you. And so if you have questions, ask them. If you want to follow up for advice, don't hesitate to do that. That's what we're here for. And we're very, very passionate about lifting our sisters up. So make sure you reach out, not just one time, but if you need to, continue that to cultivate the relationship.
Well, thank you again, Ebony. And we are so happy to have you as part of our network. We're going to be following you as you take over the world in the financial industry as well as the kitchen. So when you're ready to monetize all that food and start sending some to Maryland, you got one customer right here. So I'll be waiting on my shrimp and grits. And Ashley and I are so happy to highlight you today on HBCU Highlights. You exude excellence. You are a true example, a true class act, and a true Spelman woman. So thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you to both for the opportunity. I appreciate it.